It is such a pleasure to be here. It is such a pleasure to meet all of you. And I was absolutely delighted to be exposed to mindfulness and to all the different practices. And I sat there and I just realized that after joining federal government, the only new behavior that I developed is a very profound positive stigmataxis. So you don't be surprised if you will find me behind the podium at one point. So I hope you know what positive stigmataxis is. Oh my God. So I am a behavioral pharmacologist by training. So you know, if you put an animal in an open field, for example, all rodents will eventually find themselves very, very close to the perimeter of the, oh my God, I lost the joke. So, what I was trying to illustrate to you that being associated with federal government, you become so risk averse that you always find yourself like holding on to something. So, and in my case, it is going to be a podium. So, during this meeting, we had an incredible opportunity to see amazing discoveries, right? So amazing new advances in research. And what I want to talk to you today is maybe about your expectation that you should have of the funders of that research. Can funders innovate in a similar way you do? So what can we do to enable the successful translation of your discoveries to make sure that we will deliver what you are trying to develop to markets and to our patients? And I also wanted to engage you in a discussion about what is value of death, and maybe to invite you to think about it differently. So, indeed, the notion of value of death is so pervasive now that the term appears somewhat matter-of-factly in research discussions, in research publications, in websites, like this picture from the website of our host today. And the concept of value of death can even be productively interpreted by the generative AI. So I was trying to do it there. So, and scientists and funders alike routinely claim that the value of death exists as the intermediary stage of translation process between basic research and commercialization of a new product. And this picture from Nature magazine is a dramatic portrayal of the value of death, which is now like a boilerplate for all the discussions about translational process and about all the discussions of this phenomenon. And the main reason for value of death is often described as a dramatic shortfall in funding at this particular stage. And this article is asking, can NIH bridge the gap? And yes, this is how we usually, typically solve the problem. We draw bridges. Sometimes it is a Rialto bridge, but more often than not, it is something like a Golden Gate Bridge. So, but what I want you to pay attention at is that the presence of the valley implies that there are two peaks on both sides of the valley. So, and for some reason, the funding for the late stages of development is somehow more readily available than the funding for what is happening in between. And what if I told you that the scholarly literature, economic literature on the origins of value of death is actually very prolific? And economists specifically urge us not to oversimplify a problem and to attribute it to a shortfall in funding alone. So more and more, this phenomenon is being recognized as a failure in innovation policy. So when federal government, by sponsoring basic research, is engaged in non-economic activities, which are producing outputs that are not congruent with inputs that private sector is requiring to be able to develop that technology further. And so, and once again, AI interpreted the bridge through the valley of death this way. And so we often instruct our scientists to engage into the journey of traversing the valley of death, which is very, very spooky, very long, and it's very unpredictable. So, but what if I invite you to change and conceptualize the valley of death, that gap, differently, so that the gap goes not in this direction, but in this direction? So, and that is the gap that is representing the mismatch, the misalignment between the outputs that are usually produced by basic research and, once again, inputs that private industry needs in order to commercialize that research. And so, and instead of inviting people on that long and dangerous bridge, so what if we conceptualize the way of avoiding this valley of death as a ladder, like a series of very specific, very well-defined steps that are going to bring the value of our projects up with every step that we take. And I can tell you that we actually tested that hypothesis. 2 years ago, we issued a funding, which is called Value Ladder. And that funding was restrictive in how much money we could give our scientists. It was very short and restricted to 1 year only. But what we allowed people to do, we allowed people in-kind access to contractors that NIH supported. And to my knowledge, those were the very first contracts in which NIH offered the activities of marketing, IP, business development, and formal NPD experts. So, and now you can see that NIH has multiple initiatives that are designed specifically to take you through all those steps with the goal of increasing value at each step. And the jewel of this enterprise is one of the jewels. It's called NIH Blueprint. And basically, this is the initiative that is created as a virtual pharmaceutical company. If your project is accepted in BPN, you will be able to become a part of the team that is going to be comprised of your lab, specifically selected pharma executives in their former life. And you are going to get free access to all these massive standing contracts with CROs that NIH already paid for. So, and that enterprise exists to help you with drug discovery and development. We just launched 2 years ago a similar enterprise specifically dedicated to development of diagnostic and therapeutic devices. Once again, in addition to funding, you are going to get access to all those multiple functions that NIH is already paying for, including access to regulatory expertise and even the infrastructure for clinical trials. So we also are allowing you access to entrepreneurship schools. So we specifically ask the best business schools in the country to develop a curriculum that is going to be useful for scientists. And now we have 3 schools. One is being taught at Babson, which is the best entrepreneurial school in the world, Johns Hopkins, and MIT. So, and this is my last slide to assure you that irrespectively what you decide to do, federal government, which could be an innovator in funding, is going to help you to do just that. We have activities dedicated to translational research if you elect to be in academic. We have activities specifically dedicated to you becoming an entrepreneur. And if you want to be in the middle, you can always be in the middle. Thank you so much.